This paper was presented at the JCT Traffic Signals Symposium 2023 in Nottingham, thanks to the support of AGD Systems, INRIX, Message Maker Displays, PTV Group, Simplify Systems, Smart Micro UK and TRL Software.
This year, our first speaker of the entire symposium, Geoff Collins, has come down with COVID. He's kind of over the COVID, but has a chest infection and is just not up to travelling, unfortunately. But it was such an important paper and something slightly different to the usual traffic signals stuff that we talk about that I wanted to share it with you. And so, having written some articles about it, interviewed Geoff on 2 or 3 occasions, I'm going to do what is known as wing it and try and work through the presentation on Geoff's behalf. What we're going to talk about is distracted driving and technology that can basically be used to catch people who are driving along, in this case using their mobile phone while they're driving or driving without a seatbelt. We'll come to why those are important in a moment, but the reason it's important for an audience like this is because we're all invested in road safety. The problem we have with road safety is that often we don't have specific budgets for it, and it often becomes lots of different people's responsibility. So it could be the police, it could be one part of an authority, it could be another authority. The point of what I want to give you here is to tell you about this technology so that it opens your knowledge so that when you're having discussions about road safety, this is why it's important to know about this, so you can basically talk about it and throw it into the ring when you're coming up with ideas for making our roads safer. So the simple thing, first of all, is the number of smartphones are increasing. So you've got so many more smartphones, and people are using them all the time. And frankly, they're addicted to them. People, I challenge you that at no point during the next 15 minutes do I see anybody checking their phone. It's going to happen. Of course it happens. We all do it. People check their phone at the wheel, it becomes extremely dangerous. There is a video online of a lorry that the guy was going through Tinder as he was driving along, and at full speed drove into the back of a vehicle in front, and they couldn't actually identify the bodies because it was that catastrophic. So distracted driving is extremely important. And as we see here, the amount of different. So every 12 minutes, people are looking at their phones. Every 12 minutes, and that doesn't stop when they're driving. So they introduced this in Australia. Acusensus, their heads-up technology. What it does, camera looks through the windscreen, and we'll come to how it works in a moment, but looks through the windscreen and can work out whether you're checking your mobile phone, whether you're driving along with no seatbelt on. And the difference is incredible. 2019, when they first put this technology in, they were catching 1 in 82 drivers. Once drivers knew that there was a really good chance that they could be caught because these cameras were being moved around and were, checking every single vehicle. So it wasn't just that you had to, in effect, have bad luck that a policeman were to see you while you were driving along holding your phone, or you might get noticed not wearing a seatbelt. Here, they were being monitored, every single person driving past a point. Went to 1 in 534 drivers. Such a huge difference. And 500,000 people were fined. And it changed driver behaviour. It's now moved over, as you can see, to the other states. So it's also now in Queensland and Western Australia as well. Geoff Collins, who should have been presenting this, saw this technology taking place in Australia. He spent years with Unoptic, the average speed camera company, very invested in road safety. He brought it over here and is general manager in the UK. We look at the wearing of a seatbelt. Now, some people might say, well, if you drive along and you're not wearing a seatbelt and you crash, well, that's your own stupid fault. Why do we need to worry about it? But actually, the reason the law was put in is, A, to save people from themselves, and secondly, if you actually were to be involved in a crash when the person actually is then killed because they weren't wearing a seatbelt, that's on your conscience for the rest of your life. And let's get down to money. We've got to pay for the inquest, the road closure, all the other things that go on. There are many reasons why you would want to actually enforce the seatbelt wearing rule even more than we do now. And pacts say that 30% of all in-vehicle fatalities, so take away pedestrians, 30% of those people that die in road crashes, they die when they're not wearing a seatbelt. So it is a really significant issue, and it's not going down, it's growing. So this is the technology. This is what it's doing, is it's looking through the windscreen, taking a photo, and then AI is analysing it. Now, the interesting thing is that the AI wasn't told what was good and what was bad. It was told what was good and what was bad, but it wasn't told what to then do with that. It has learnt itself. It's looked at more and more, then a human being has then checked it and said, yes, this was somebody driving along holding their phone, or yes, this was somebody without a seatbelt on. And it learns all the time and gets better and better all the time. But the key thing, before you get any enforcement on it, is that a human being will look at it. So there's at no point a situation where you will get an automated fine sent out or anything like that. At the moment, we're not in the, generally, unless it's really bad, my understanding is we're not in the fining situation, but we're in the writing letters and warning people they've been spotted. And reoffending is actually quite low. So there we go, there's the slide that explains how it goes. So you deploy it, you capture the images, you analyse them, and the human then will check what's going on and whether or not the person is actually breaking the rules. So there's some trial data. I won't read it out for you, but basically it works. It works to the point where they put a van in Devon and Cornwall, and they checked lots of different roads. They then have put gantries up. They've got the vehicles on trailers, the cameras on trailers, and they are now checking more roads in Devon and Cornwall, and it's so good they're going to now go on from a trial to a full implementation. It's had a significant effect, they believe, in road safety in those two counties. Here's some data that is quite unbelievable. So if you look at it, 70% of people who are driving without a seatbelt on are professional drivers. And you can imagine, I suppose if you're in an HGV, I'm nice and big, if I have a crash, it's not going to affect me so much, so they drive along without. And one of the reasons they think with vans is that people are delivery drivers, they're getting in and out of their vans all the time, they can't be bothered to put their seatbelts on. But 70%, and the vast majority, as you can see, are male. Likewise, vast majority of people doing distracted driving are male. They are the ones who are fiddling with their phones as they're driving along. Look at the ages. I would have imagined, when it came to seatbelts, that it was up this level. When I learned to drive, it was mandatory to wear a seatbelt. That was back in 1987. It was only earlier in the decade that the law had been brought in. You would think people maybe 10 years older than me and above, they might be the ones who never had to wear a seatbelt when they learned to drive. They haven't changed. It's not that. It's people far younger who are being identified as driving without a seatbelt on. Likewise, it's distracted drivers you would think might be early 20s, those that have grown up with smartphones all their lives. It's not that, it's in the 40s again. So it's just an interesting stat from the trial. Here are some pictures just to show you. So here is that guy, no seatbelt on, you can see. So he's driving along that huge great lorry, no seatbelt on at all. They get better, I promise you. There's a guy, as you can see, the AI has picked up, holding his phone, looking at his phone, texting or something as he is driving along. This has been picked up. That's a good one. Driving with your knees whilst holding your phone in both hands. So not only are you not in control of the car, but you are actually looking down at your phone, you're concentrating on your phone. So A, you're not driving properly, and secondly, even if you were looking out the windscreen, you couldn't control your car properly anyway. Don't think we need to say anything more about that, do you? Just unbelievable. And these people, right, just stop and think. They're out there while you're driving. While you are driving along, you are trusting other people to be taking as much care and attention as you are, and this is what's going on. There's another one, just driving along, on the phone. Just unbelievable. Those are the trailers. They've come in. The Acusensus trailer is now, so it's not just the van that moves around. You can park the trailer up on the side of the road. Solar powered, doesn't need to be on grid, captures the data, and then the other key thing to say is that it's also a good sign of other non-compliance. People who will willfully use their phones, people that will drive without seatbelts. It's amazing the correlation between them and those that don't have MOT, don't have road tax, don't have insurance, don't pay parking tickets. So actually, from a local authority point of view, you want to get the revenue, you want to find the people that are more likely to evade, that sort of thing. And this is one of the guides. Everything is linked together. There are links between them all. So there we are. So the regional trialling, I'm going to go back in Devon and Cornwall, and they work with National Highways on this. And Devon and Cornwall is Vision Zero Southwest. It's a partnership between authorities and the police, and they share the revenue from any fines in order to, or any awareness courses in order to then reinvest into road safety. One of the issues is that at the moment there isn't a speed awareness course equivalent for using a mobile phone. But what you can do is do one which is sort of driving without proper attention. There is a course on that, so often they'll run that because then they can get the revenue back, because otherwise it goes over to the police, the fine goes to the Treasury, as you know, and it gets, it's much harder to get the police to actually go and prosecute, whereas in fact what you want to do is educate. So that's what they're working on. So public acceptance is really high at the moment. You get really positive articles. Do you know, can you guess which newspaper ran the first positive article about this technology? The Daily Mail. There you go. If they like it, we're onto a winner here. Bigger than we realise, as we know. Do we want to deal with it? I think everybody in this room will want to. The current legislation isn't perfect. Part of the trials that are going on at the moment are to create the evidence to show that we need to change the legislation. That is Geoff Collins. He's far better looking than I am. And there is his email address and his mobile number. I'll leave those up on the screen for a moment. Now, at this point, we're supposed to go to Q&A. If you think this was an ill-informed reckon, then the questions might be even worse. But if you do have any questions, I'll try and field them based on what Geoff has told me over a series of conversations, interviews, articles, etc. Anything else, you can contact him either there or via LinkedIn. So are there any questions? Get a mic to Mr. Playdale.
Thank you. Mark Playdale, PTC. Thank you, Paul. Warfare. If you put speed enforcement cameras out in vans and you're using a sat-nav, very quickly the drivers identify that it's there, and so people don't speed past those locations. How quickly do you think the satellite navigation services will identify this as, in effect, a speed camera and flash up onto the sat-nav, don't go there? And the corollary to that is, would it ultimately be better to put the technology into the vehicle to report the fact that I've got someone heavy in the driver's seat, but the seatbelt latch isn't latched, and then the vehicle can start to pass that information rather than relying on roadside care?
I think we've seen, my understanding with the automatic speed legislation from the European Union that actually putting stuff in the vehicle is quite difficult, and that's why it's become an automated system, a system of warning rather than actually stopping you going over the speed limit. I guess the data protection, privacy things of in-vehicle makes it difficult. If, in the same way as speed cameras change a little bit of behaviour, and especially average speed cameras, I personally believe, this is just my personal opinion, are better than spot speed cameras because they create a length of journey where people are sticking to the limit. I guess if people are aware, and even if they just put their seatbelt on, they might use their phone as they go around the corner, but if they put their seatbelt on, then they're unlikely to go, right, I'm going to put my seatbelt on, drive past that camera and then take it off again. You've got a lot of effort for that. And if you, like speed cameras, I guess, put them in places where there is a danger of distracted driving and you've got some stats and therefore that stops people using their phone at that moment, all those things have to be a positive. I think, yes, there is a sort of an issue with the fact that the thing that you're not supposed to be using could end up warning you that you're going to be caught for using it. So, you know, that is there. But I think the stats in Australia show the level of compliance does increase very much when that technology is out there.
Thank you.
Let's check the time. Slightly early. I've got time for one more ill-informed reckon. Oh, Mark's got another. So I challenged him for a question in every session, and we've... okay, so... No, carry on, Mark. Oh.
Hello, Bob Pitardo from Morgan Sindall. We've been approached by Operation Ping to see if we can deploy one of these units in some roadworks. So we're trying to get it onto the A12 scheme in Chelmsford, but we've hit a problem. The unit needs temporary barrier, and although you say it's got solar panels, it still needs to be filled up with diesel every 3 weeks. There's a cost to both. No one's prepared to pay for it, so we can't install it. I think the National Highways Project Manager says, for our scheme, says seatbelt and phone use through our scheme isn't a problem. So, boom.
Well, how do you know it's not a problem until you've actually checked whether it's a problem? I guess is one thing.
Because he doesn't want to pay for it. That's
and living in the sticks in North Essex, I know that stretch of road works extremely well, and the other stretch by Marks Tay as well. And you do see some really dodgy sort of braking, speeding up and weaving where you think you're looking at your phone. I'll let Geoff get back to you on that. And I think Geoff has a business case as well, because I just look and I can see, for example, Devrim in the room, and Devrim from PTV has some of the best software available for use in traffic management, for example. The issue that he comes across and we all come across is when you spend money on a solution, whatever that solution may be, it costs you money. The issue the industry always faces is often the value is actually the wider societal value. You can't account for a crash that hasn't happened, a fatality that hasn't happened. So you can put technology in, whether it's traffic management, whether it's enforcement, that has a cost to you, but nobody then comes to you and goes, thanks very much, put that in your spreadsheet as a revenue side of things. So it's always cost to you and fairy gold into the wider society. And I think that's always an issue that we as a society have to, or we as an industry have to grapple with and try and get that business case right. But I'll get you and Geoff talking. So grab his email address and he'll be in touch. Right, got time for one more if there is. We might even get to coffee early if we watch it. One more quickly from Mark.
Is coffee early more important?
No, goodness, no.
Really quick one,
Thank you. You put up 2 graphics, pie chart of gender, but you didn't tell us what the underlying gender of the driving population was to know whether there was a disproportionate amount of male or female. And you put up a chart of age range for offenders, but you didn't show us the age range of drivers. So what I'm trying to say is, would it perhaps be good to come back at some point and say, Let's go back a bit more. That one, and that one.
Yep.
So with that one, what would the pie chart look for the non-offending? So we can see the change. And for the next one, what would the graph of age distribution of drivers look like, so we can see where the discrepancy is biggest? That's just an observational data.
Okay. PhD, you see. It digs far further than my basic degree in maths. He's got, goes far further. I think we can safely say there's a disproportionate number of males, because I don't think only 6% of them are females. We're not one of those countries. So yeah, I think there's an issue there, certainly with the males, and age range as well. Potentially, it would be interesting to overlay, but I think we can see some trends from that. But yes, again, as we dig into the data, I think more data's there. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for humouring me there and actually being really kind as I worked my way through that presentation as best I could. But I thought, as I say,